If I'm right, I can fix this dead Porsche in just a few minutes with really no special tools or skills. But if I'm wrong, I'm only out $700 and I still get a nice parts car. Now, $700 at a Porsche dealer might get you an oil change and a wheel alignment, but at the wholesale auction, I got an entire Porsche for $700. And for $700, we should fully expect it to have some major issue, like a bad engine or toasted transmission, especially since it was listed as is and marked as a non-runner and not drivable. But this photo here of the gauge cluster caught my attention. For a car that doesn't run, it seems to idle decent. And if you zoom in, look at the information screen. It says ignition lock faulty. The next photo here has a different warning for brake proportioning, with all the problem lights lit. Anyone who's owned one of these Cayennes or Touaregs already knows what's going on here, but the sellers at the auction, they couldn't care less about this car and just want it gone. You can see right there, if I put in a bid of $700 with fees, it'll be a total of $925. We'll go ahead, we'll hit the bid on it. We're gonna win it. It's been running for days, nobody wants it, and it's local. How much better does it get? And in usual fashion, the tow driver showed up right as the rain started pouring. He told me that the Cayenne was stuck in park and he wasn't sure how he would get it off his flatbed, which makes me wonder, how did he get it on the flatbed? But anyway, he tried a few tricks. Well, I simply just Googled dead Cayenne move to neutral, and in about 30 seconds I learned where the neutral select switch was, and we rolled this thing right off. Now that we got some light out and it's not pouring, it'll be much easier for me to show you exactly how we were able to pretty simply roll this off the delivery driver's truck. Now, this thing has all those electrical warnings when you get in. There's no key in the ignition or anything. And funny enough, this did start at one point last night. I'm going to try and start it right now. You can see I'm turning the key and nothing happens. It is finicky. It didn't happen on the first go around. And it's telling us the ignition lock is faulty, probably one of the reasons we can't get it started up. My foot is on the brake, and I'll try one last time here. There you go. Okay, so it starts up kind of whenever it feels like it. With my foot on the brake, when I go to try and shift this into gear, it's locked, okay? Pushing the button, and it just keeps blinking everything on the center computer there with all the lights lit up on the dashboard. So simply, the transport driver was looking for the park interlock switch. On a lot of American cars, it's much easier to find, but if your car ever gets stuck in park, there's usually an emergency override, and there is one on this Porsche. It's just hidden. So I found a quick tutorial online. It happens to be right off to the side of this yellow connector right here. You see this little switch? All right, so I gotta push to the side. Watch, my foot's on the brake, and now I could slide it into neutral. That's what we did. We rolled it off of his truck, but then I wondered, if that worked, what if I go down one more to drive? It actually does drive, although it feels very sluggish. But that's about as far as I got last night. We turned this car that was dead, according to the auction, into a run and drive, which is pretty neat. One thing I could tell you right now, it is definitely not shifting, so it is stuck in a limp mode. And heck, I didn't notice this, but if you look at the speedometer, it's not even registering that we are moving the car. If you're still driving one of these cars on the road, you've likely experienced this problem. It's very well documented, and everyone that has those same warning messages and their dash lit up like a Christmas tree has water underneath the carpets, and that water messes with a connection or a few connections behind the carpeting here. So we're going to lift this all up and out in a moment. But when I bought this at the auction, I saw this panel pulled up and over in the pictures, and it made me wonder, did somebody already try and get back there and fix this, and it didn't work, and that's why it was so cheap. But if we take a closer look right here, this turn wheel is connected to the hood latch cable, and it's all chewed up. Also, here's the actual handle itself. The inside is also chewed up, and this is a very common issue on this generation Porsche. My Panamera had the same problem. It's just two plastic pieces you replace, and it will fix that. So I don't think anyone's ever pulled this up. And if we just take a close look here, there's usually like a little plastic trim piece that covers this hardware. Look, there's standing water underneath there. If we put our hand on the carpeting, we could feel the water underneath there. So there's definitely a lot of water hiding And it's all this water that's likely turned this car into a big brick. But otherwise, just look at the condition of everything. The door panel is immaculate. The buttons are all there. Nothing's scuffed up. There's no tears in the leather seat. The steering wheel is super clean. The dashboard is perfect. And one of the things you would always see on these old Cayennes and Touaregs is the steering wheel buttons would be all worn off, and the same thing with the radio buttons. And it's like a 20,000 mile car in here. 2 sets of keys. What's the chance that they left us the manuals? Usually in auction cars, you don't get the manuals, and of course we got the manuals. You'd be surprised. People actually buy these manual sets used, especially if they bought a car like we did at auction and they're missing. Oh, we don't want to show that. That's somebody's registration. If you ever trade a car into a dealer, always remove your personal stuff. And while I can't fault this person for forgetting the registration in the glove box, that has their driver's license number on it, their home address. And like, I've seen it so many times where someone trades in their junk car, they treat it like a trash can because they think that the dealer's just gonna like junk it for them. And 9 times out of 10, they don't spend any time on these cars. They send them straight to auction. And then, well, your medical bill that has your social security number on it ends up in the hands of a guy that buys $700 cars. And well, we kind of just live with the idea that all our information is out on the internet nowadays. You shouldn't, and you don't have to. You can get all of your personal data shredded from these online sites, and you could do it with incognito. Ever wonder why you get so many spam emails, calls, and how about these ridiculous political texts? It's because data brokers track your online life and sell your information. Companies buy it for marketing, fraudsters buy it for identity theft. Either way, we're getting the worst part of the deal. But putting a stop to it is simple with Incogni. It took me around 3 minutes to sign up. I just put in a few pieces of information, and they immediately sent out multiple data removal requests. In less than 1 hour after signing up, I got this email from one of these data sites confirming my details were deleted, and any future data they receive with my name on it will automatically be suppressed and never shared on their sites. Since signing up with Incogni, I've had over 60 different brokers and sites remove my personal information, and that number continues to tick higher every few hours. It's really easy for you to do the same. Just visit incogni.com/samcrack or hit that link in the description and get 60% off an annual plan when you use code SAMCRACK. It is really a nominal cost to regain a ton of privacy, shred your data, and do it with Incogni. This is where they mount the battery in your Cayenne, so when you go to the dealer for a replacement, they probably charge you like $1,800. And this yellow cable, I've been wondering about this the entire time. This is so strange. Like somebody's got this coming off the relay, which is our problem area. It's the cord that runs off this relay, and it is this red wire. Like, this makes little sense. Like, I get why someone ran that yellow cable down there and jumped it off the relay wire. It's because they're trying to send constant power to the relay, and the relay not turning on is the main source of the problem here. And it's been very well documented. Any car that has made it this long, any Cayenne or Touareg, well, they've already experienced this issue. Basically, all that water that we found is compromising a connection underneath the carpets here. We'll find in just a second and fix it quickly. But since that connection is broken, the relay won't turn on. The thing is, to fix it is like a few minute fix. The actual legitimate way, and to jump it like they did would probably take equally as long, and it's clearly unreliable because it didn't work. But it's someone messing around like that probably got us this car for $700, because I found this piece of paper here on the dashboard when I got the car. If you look, you see it says Deal Shield, and Deal Shield is like an auction warranty service. Remember, there's a buyer who's me, there's a seller who's like another dealer, and then there's a middleman, that's the auction. And the auction, besides collecting, commission on cars that they move, they also have other little services like this Deal Shield. You got to think about it like a warranty. If I buy a car and it's got a major problem or I'm not satisfied with it, a selling dealer can buy this service called Deal Shield. And when I return the car, instead of it going back to that selling dealer who then has to deal with, fixing it and all the cost and taking it back, the auction will just acquire it. So now the auction owns this car, and they're quick to take a loss on it and just move it. That's why they mark the price for $700 and just said it's as is. Like, it's mine, I deal with the headache, and they might have lost a couple thousand, but as long as they sell more Deal Shields, then they take losses on the cars, they're square. But anyway, look at how much water is in here. There is so much. Let's see if we can get this up. this trim in this car is really something else. And so is the amount of water in our floorboards here. Jeez, look at this. Whole entire loom is just soaked. Oh my goodness. Now that our wires aren't swimming in a pool of water, it will make it much easier for us to work. But clearly nobody actually attempted the real fix, because all of our shielding is still in place here, and we're going to need to peel this back. And okay, here we go. This is exactly the area you look for. See how from the factory they connect these wires? They literally just twist them together and put tape on them. And that's the main issue. And so the wire that we are looking for is that one right there. It looks like a brown wire with a red stripe, and I can see it right here. And we want to trace it all the way down to where it connects. All right. Still going up and up. Oh, here we are right here. Look. This is where our problem's going to be. Look, you can see, look. There's not even any tips to those wires. They completely corroded off. So this broken connection is likely what's causing all those lights on the dashboard. Just really quick, we got to know. We got to have that instant gratification and figure out if by joining these two wires back together, will it actually fix our problem? There's a ton of slack here, so should be pretty easy. All right, there you go. I just got the wires temporarily joined together. We're gonna grab our key. We're gonna put it in the ignition, and let's see what happens now. Very cool. All right, of course it starts raining right when we want to test it, but I got my hand on the brake. Starts right over, first shot. Let's see what we got. We have, well, many less warning lights, but still a few. Check engines on, tire pressure, and it said the four-wheel system is also having an issue. So I'm not too worried about the remaining lights on the dashboard, at least not yet. The warning from the four-wheel system is very likely because I have the center console trim off, which has all the controls for that four-wheel system. And the check engine light we'll scan later, but the car starts over and idles excellent. So with our main problem down, we have to track down the root of that problem and figure out where the water's coming from. And we'll use the rain to our advantage here. Now these Cayennes and Touaregs from this era have two very common drain issues. One is with the HVAC system, and the other is with the sunroof. If the water is coming from a failed sunroof drain, well, after this rain, we'll find more water back on the floor. So I had this all pretty dry, but after that rain, you can see water is starting to pool again in this front corner. And supposedly the sunroof drain in this car for this side is somewhere up and behind all of this padding. So we know that our problem is definitely with the sunroof drain, and we're going to start just taking this apart and seeing if we can't find it. All right, we found this thing. It's just kind of tucked away in the corner. Obviously, we got the brake pedal right here. In front of the brake pedal is this big metal bracket, and then tucked away in the corner, you can see where I've kind of got it exposed a little bit behind this foam padding. That's it right there. Watch this. Look at that. You see the water coming out of it? Look at it, it's just pouring water everywhere. All right, there it is. And you can see it's like almost pinched itself off over time. I'm not sure if that's where our blockage is or if it's somewhere down the line, but either way, that blockage is what's causing all the water. This drain fitting pops right off, and you can see it's loaded with junk. So I cleaned it and widened its opening. Everything seems to be flowing perfectly now, but before hooking it back up, I took one of these dollar store drain snakes and just ran it up the pipe to make sure there weren't any more blockages, and a little bit of dirt did come out, so we should be good to go on this end. After hooking it all back up, we're gonna go check and make sure the water's coming out where it should, which is the bottom of the car, around the wheel well area. And it's still clogged somewhere. You could see the water, instead of going out the connector we just fixed, it's running right back into the car. So I pulled back the wheel arch liner and found a ton of debris. I pulled this all out and then ran my hand up to where the sunroof drain exits the car, and I found the issue. Oh, this is loaded with junk too. Oh my gosh, do you see this? Ugh. I could feel a ton of leaves stuck in the exit, which were likely blocking that tube from the inside of the car and just pushing the water back inside. So to clean this all up, I just ran a shop vac up to this hole and sucked it all up. All right, let's see how much junk came out of there. Well, it felt like it was a lot more, but this bunched up is what was in there. Now with everything opened up, we tested again and water's coming out where it should, but it's also dripping from above back into the interior. This is a total pain. It's the worst sunroof drain I've ever dealt with, but there's only one place left to clean, and that's from above. This is actually where most of your routine cleaning should start, because this is where all the dirt is likely entering your sunroof drains. Now there's multiple different ways to clean this, but a lot of people recommend you use weed whacker string because it's gentle and you don't have to worry about damaging your drain. You really wouldn't want to mess up the drain from above, because if you poked a hole in it or pop it off, you wouldn't be able to get to the area it's hooked up at without a major teardown of your car. Now everything is dry and staying that way, which was verified by another quick rain break, so we can permanently repair our cable. I soldered it together first and then covered it with one of these waterproof shrink connectors that also has a little piece of solder inside to make sure it stays solid. With our driver's side pretty well fixed, we have to wonder, with the amount of water that was in there, is there water anywhere else? You know, these drains run all over the car and are known to compromise other areas. And it's simple enough to check by just lifting up or feeling around sections of the carpet, but to make this job even easier, I borrowed a moisture meter from a friend that rehabs water damaged homes, and the back carpets checked out fine. You can see how sensitive this thing is when I bring it up to my hands. It jumps because our bodies are obviously made mostly of water, and it did end up finding more water underneath the front passenger side area. So I've never seen this before, but someone's got a piece of tape over this. I'm wondering if that's because this has already been cleared before, but it's easy enough to check. This should just slip up and off, and if there's water backup in it, we'll see it come out right now. But I'm guessing our issue is more to do with the sunroof drain. Yeah, this one actually looks pretty clean, so I'm not gonna mess with it. But this is the HVAC drain. This is where you get that condensation that'll come out from the underside of your car. And if you're dealing with or working on one of these Cayennes and you got water in the passenger side floorboard here, you definitely want to look at and clean this drain. Now we know we've got a sunroof drain problem going on here, and it was basically the same story as the driver's side. The main clog seemed to be in that elbow connector. It was way worse than the driver's side, but still easy enough to clean out and open up a bit. All right, the leak problem's finally solved, I think, on both sides. I will tell you, the passenger side was a little bit more finicky. I would still get a tiny bit of water in after the rains that we've been having. And the one thing that put a complete stop to it, I put a little bit of silicone sealer around that outlet that plugs into the firewall. And it was so good, I went back to the driver's side and did the same thing just to assure that these drains don't have a problem for basically the rest of the life of this car. And well, we can wait to button this up a few minutes. I want to take it on a drive. Before we go, we'll just take a quick look at everything here, make sure it looks straightforward. We've got oil. It looks very, very dirty, but we have oil. Let's look at coolant. Oh, that's beautiful. That is Audi pink coolant right there. That usually means that these cars are dealer service. When you see that vibrant pink coolant, I think we're ready to go. Before we start it up, let me go ahead and plug this little connector back into our four-wheel drive controls and see if that shuts off the warning messages on the dash. All right, here we go. All right. So, yep, that's just a tire pressure warning. It got rid of our four-wheel drive lights. The only thing we have warnings for is a couple of light bulbs apparently that are out, and we do have a check engine light. And the first couple things we want to pay attention to here is if our speedometer works, and we also want to just make sure the car shifts, because it definitely felt like it was in a limp mode where it wasn't shifting. I can already see our speedometer moving a little bit in reverse. Got it in drive now. I'm already noticing how much better the car creeps when I take my foot off the brake. Right now I'm giving it no gas, but it's moving. Before, when we had our issue, I had to give the car a lot of gas to get it moving. So I'm guessing our problem's fixed. We can see the speedometer's working. Let's watch that RPM gauge here. Yeah. Perfect. Let's go off-road a little bit, because that's what these cars were really good at doing. They were very capable and comfortable off-road cars. And I'm pretty sure this one has an air suspension. It's amazing how it just is like it's floating, like you're barely even driving over a rough road. It rides really good. So really the only other area of concern here would be our check engine light. And when I did a full system scan, I found a ton of passive codes, basically codes caused by our electrical problems that are no longer present. The only active code was for cat efficiency, which is something that won't cause any performance issues now or make the car dangerous to drive on, but it's something we're going to take care of when we do a budget repair and restoration on our Cayenne. So make sure you're subscribed, because that video is coming up next. With everything working right and a bit of a polish job, I think this $700 Porsche might be worth more like $7,000. Sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you get extremely lucky. They don't always work out like this, but this has to be one of my best scores yet. If you agree, make sure to hit that like button. As always, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching today. I'll catch you very soon.